Well, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whoever you are, wherever you are, whenever it is for you. For me, it is just past midnight on Tuesday, April 29th, which makes this the news for Monday, April 28th, 2025, day 1160 of Vladimir Putin's war of aggression against the people of Ukraine. How do you do? I'm Peter Alexievich, and this is the Live at 5 from Kyiv, coming to you live from this major European capital currently under siege. I see the peeps are coming in. Hey, Darlene. Hey, Hobo. Hey, Steve with a V. How's everybody doing tonight? Hey, Super User. Hey, Mike Roland. I want to thank Little Red Sunflower, who is the sponsor of tonight's live. If anybody sees Little Red around, please tell her how grateful we are for her support. I sure do appreciate it. Hey, Call. Hey, Bobby. How's everybody doing tonight? Hey, Bjorn. Sweden is in the house. Croatia's in the house. Hey, Tisno. Hey, Sammy. We got some Canadians here. We got some Americans here. How's everybody doing? Hey, Paul Smith. How do? England is in the house. Hey, Andy. Hey, Anthony Tommy Tom. How you doing? Kate Boy and Banjo are here. Hey, Nightshade. More Great Britain is here. Hey, Manda Bear. Sunny Liverpool. Really? Sunny in Liverpool today, huh? There's Fitzy Boy. How you doing, bud? Hey, Manda Bear. How is everybody tonight? Well, I'll tell you, hey, Maestro in Finland. How you doing? Hey, Integral. So, I'm not sure where to begin. I mean, we usually begin with the overnight missile and drone attacks, right? But last night there wasn't one. How about that? We got a little break last night. Now, could it be that Putin used everything up in that big attack last week? I don't know. I don't know what's going on. Hey, Rusty. Hey, G2. Oh, no, Nightshade. Welcome to the club, pal. You haven't seen any news, huh, Anthony? Well, let's give you some news, pal. The Ukrainians lost. I think it was an Su-27, and it was an Su-27 fighter jet today. Now, this is important to recognize. Increasingly, the Ukrainians are using their Air Force for frontline close air support of ground troops. This is a major change in the direction of this war. The planes have not been flying close to the front for fear of being shot down like this Su-27 was today. But increasingly, we're seeing this new capability of the Ukrainian armed forces exploited to support the frontline troops. And when you have that, when you're flying planes right up to the front line, you have to expect equipment losses. I'm sorry, you just have to, right? Anthony, that is the question to ask. Hey, Michael. That is the question to ask. The pilot safely ejected and was recovered. So when we think about how difficult this must be. You get these Western fighter jets, you have to incorporate them into your army, right? The F-16s have been flying air defense missions, keeping the skies clear for 10 months now. And it's only after a sustained Ukrainian campaign of 4 months, November, December, January, February. Remember, every single day, we were talking about a major Russian radar hit. We were talking about major Russian air defense being hit. Every single day for 4 months. Now, with all that shit gone, with Ukraine practically blinded, a Polyphemus with right? The Cyclops from Ulysses with the tree trunk right through his eye. With Russia practically blinded, the Ukrainians are taking chances, and they're running right up to the front line with the jets. Exactly, user. The pilot is the real asset. The plane you can replace. The training, the knowledge, the experience of these pilots is irreplaceable. Irreplaceable. But I will point out, in 4 weeks of these operations, the Ukrainians have lost 2 jets now. They lost their first F-16 to some S-400 missiles, and they lost this Su-27 today. We don't know why. The Air Force made the announcement this morning, and an investigation has been opened. This whole notion of the Ukrainians getting air defense is being reinforced by the rumor, because it has not been confirmed by any official source, the rumor that those Swedish AWACS have arrived. Now, I can't say for sure that they're here, but increasingly it sounds like they are. Where did it happen? The message doesn't say. The announcement from the Ukrainian Armed Forces does not say where this happened today. No, it was an old Sukhoi 27. It was a Soviet-era jet. Hey, there's the sponsor of tonight's live. Everybody say thank you to Little Red. Thank you, Little Red Sunflower. Right, Chet? Exactly, right? And the pilot got out safe. That's what's important. Hey, Birdie. Now, the question of air superiority has plagued both sides in this conflict. Nobody's been able to get air superiority, right? The introduction of the Swedish AWACS could change all of that, but we'll see. First they have to be here. Next, they have to get to work, and then they have to get some results. So we'll see. Now, somebody just asked, do I have any thoughts on Finland? And I assume that what you're referring to is the recent buildup of Russian military along the Finnish border. I think it's a red herring. I think it's nonsense. There is simply no way that Russia can open up another front and keep the lights on. It's not going to happen. Thanks, Rich C. It's not going to happen. The Russians can't even open another front in Ukraine. They keep trying to invade Sumy, and they can't manage it. It doesn't look like they have the manpower. Doesn't look like they have the means. So the idea that they are going to go into Finland, somebody in Finland agrees with me. Thanks, man. So the idea that they're going to go into Finland is, there's probably a bunch of Finns that are hoping that they do. I mean, what a chance. I think St. Petersburg would make a great Finnish city, personally. That's my opinion. Never, Maestro. Never. You know, which is why some pro-Ukrainian voices would like them to try. Now, well, Michael, we don't know who those troops are. Right? For all we know, they're guys that have been badly injured in the SMO. For all we know, they're mostly women. That's what Russia's been staffing the Finnish border with, in contravention to their long tradition of keeping women out of the army. They've been drafting women, and they've been putting them as border guards all along the Finnish border. So the entire border guard contingent up there has been replaced by Russian women for the most part. So I don't really know, Michael, as far as I know, we don't know who's there. If you could answer that question, I think you'd have a good answer to your question. Now, another big story is the drone facility in Tatarstan, right? way the fuck out there, 1,200 kilometers, 800 miles from the Ukrainian border. The Ukrainians sent 6 Fox-backed drones. One of them hit the roof of the drone plant in Tatarstan. And then 4 more went through that hole in the roof to destroy the final assembly line at the drone plant. That drone plant appears to be offline. That's a big deal. That plant produces 300 drones a day of the Shahed class. Not only that, it's the plant where the new Garum 2s or the Geranium 2s are produced. The Geranium 2s, if you haven't heard of these things, are Shahed drones, right? Drones of the Shahed 131, 136 class. The ones we know, only they have a jet engine. Now you slap a jet engine on these drones, they go 600 kilometers, 400 miles an hour. Much harder to shoot down than their much slower cousins, right? The Shaheds usually have that little 2-cycle engine. You've heard it. If you're a follower of this channel, you've heard the recordings that I've taken of those engines right out the window here. So it appears that the drone plant that makes these very dangerous drones is shut down for the time being. How long it's going to take to repair them, we don't know. When they'll get back up and running, we don't know. But for the time being, Ukraine's should get a little bit of a break. That hit, along with the hit that destroyed, that hit could be the reason why we did not see a drone strike last night. Novorossiysk is on fire. That's news to me, Nightshade. That must have just happened. Now, it is worth mentioning, the Alabuga drone manufacturing facility in the Alabuga economic zone of Tatarstan is under investigation by Interpol. They've been recruiting women from African nations to work in the plant. Interpol is now accusing them of human trafficking, taking workers from the most poor and impoverished places in the world, mostly African nations, some Latin American, some Far Eastern Asian nations, putting them to work in the plant, taking their passports, making it impossible for them to leave the plant, working 16-hour days for very little money, not what they were told they would get, right? In effect, a kind of slave labor. Interpol is investigating this, given that Alabuga just announced that they intended to increase their foreign recruitment of women by 25 times. So if they brought 1,000 women to Tatarstan last year, they're intending to bring 25,000 next year. It's something like that. Thanks, Thomas. I sure appreciate it. I've really been sweating the rent this month. But fortunately, Little Red Sunflower pitched in as the sponsor of tonight's live. And then my buddy Chris Carter, who's a longtime friend of this channel, is going to be the sponsor for the next 4 days. So I'm okay on rent, but I could use some food money. If anybody wants to send food money. Oh, God. It's tough. It's tough here. Anyway, the other big thing that happened this weekend, thanks, Marius. The other big thing that happened this weekend was that everybody stopped lying and admitted that there were North Korean troops fighting inside of Kursk, right? Gerasimov said it, Lavrov said it, Peskov said it, and Putin all said it. Oh, it's a new dawn. Okay. Guys, anybody that PayPals me should immediately or within the 1 day get a thank you note in PayPal. So check your PayPal. And if you don't have a thank you note from me, there is something wrong, right? Communicate, DM me or whatever. But anybody that sends to PayPal, you should have a thank you note in PayPal within 24 hours. I don't always recognize the names because they're different from your TikTok handles. So let me know when you do that what your TikTok handle is. Like Eli does, who's been a huge fan of this channel for a long time. Hook, I have a video on that. It's pinned at the top of the profile page. It's a long story that everybody here has heard more than once. Is Kursk on fire? I'm not aware of any fires in Kursk at the moment. There was some fire over the weekend in Kursk. But hold that thought for a second, Mel, because this is really important. All the Russians stopped lying about the North Koreans being in Kursk, right? So did Kim Jong-un. So did Donald Trump, who finally acknowledged it and said he wasn't happy. The participation of North Korea has lengthened this war. I'm not happy about it. And it should stop immediately. Curiously enough, as soon as the Donald said this, everybody acknowledged that the Russians were in, or that the North Koreans were in Kursk, and then everybody acknowledged that the mission was accomplished, that the Ukrainians had been expelled from Kursk, mission accomplished, North Korea can go home, yada yada, right? The only thing is, the Ukrainians are still in Kursk. And they're not just in Kursk where we usually think of, like south of Sudza. They're not just there. They also hold territory in the far west of the village of Tuktino, everything west of the river. They hold half the village, as well as a couple square kilometers on either side. Not only that, they're in Belgorod too. And I'm not the only one saying it. Romanov, the Russian mill blogger, is saying it. And you know who he's blaming? He's blaming Shoigu for lying to the president. Because these are the kinds of lies that you have to tell yourself and tell everybody around you if you're going to survive inside Russia. You can't say Putin knows it's a lie. You have to say, dear leader, from whom all blessings flow, the great Tsar, the great dictator, Putin, has been lied to by the evil, conniving bureaucrats around him. Shoigu this is what Romanov is saying today. He's saying Kursk is not liberated. The Ukrainians are still here. The president was lied to by Shoigu. The cognitive dissonance of being a Russian or a North Korean and having to believe the things that these people say, I can't even imagine it. It's beyond my comprehension to imagine it. Mr. Carrot is very angry. Now, right, Zoe, that's a fair point. We don't really know what Putin knows. Assuming that Putin is even still alive, and that some cabal of Kremlin power brokers aren't just passing off his 3 body doubles as him. Like, we really, I don't want to sound like a crazy person, but seriously, I don't think we really know the answer to that. Now, Nightshade says, I think the Victory Day ceasefire is a PR stunt. They could have a ceasefire now if they want peace. You're absolutely right, Nightshade. So there's a couple things about this. If you're going to schedule a ceasefire, you have to negotiate it. You have to have terms and conditions and enforcement mechanisms. Instead, Russia just keeps playing dictator to the world. I shall dictate all plans to all. Ceasefire May 8th to May 11th. 3 days, 72 hours for May parade. For Victory Day parade. Victory Day. That's not how you fucking do things, right? So I do hope that Ukraine is rejecting it, Susie. Now, here's the conundrum that Ukraine is in. Because, Nightshade, it's not just a PR stunt to show the world that Putin interested in peace. Bullshit. We know he's not. He doesn't want the embarrassment of Ukrainian drones at his Victory Day parade. Now, it's a difficult decision for the Ukrainians to make. If they send drones at the Victory Day parade and Russian air defense intercepts them, it's a win for Russia. If they send drones at the Victory Day parade and they aren't intercepted, but they injure civilians, that's going to make Ukraine look bad. At the same time, if they send drones to the Victory Day parade, ignore the ceasefire, which could be bad press for them, if they strike hits at the parade or even in Moscow the day of, that could be so embarrassing to Putin that it could seriously undermine his authority inside of the Kremlin. It could cast everything into doubt. So ultimately, the Ukrainians have to weigh their chances of success in such an operation against the political blowback should it go wrong. And that's a tough one right now because God knows the fucking Americans are blaming Ukraine for everything. They're blaming Ukraine for everything. For example, the American peace deal. Who rejected it? Looking at the news, you would think that it was Ukraine that rejected the peace deal. This is nonsense. I mean, they did, of course, because it was a terrible deal. It was a deal of capitulation. But it is worth pointing out that the Russians also rejected the peace deal. One of the non-starters for the Russians was American control of the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant. The Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant is back in the news because Trump, it's so hard to keep them apart in my head. Trump made the granting of the largest nuclear facility in Europe, the Zaporizhzhia plant, to America so that we could run it and sell electricity to both the Russians and Ukrainians. I mean, it's insanity of the first order. So Russia says it's not giving up Zaporizhzhia. Ukraine says Zaporizhzhia is ours, and no one is talking about giving it to the Americans. That's ridiculous. The Americans are getting somewhat less unreasonable these days. They have said, right, American officials have said that we will not support Putin's desire to demilitarize Ukraine. If Ukraine wants to have a standing army, that's their business, says America. Well, that's a non-starter for the Kremlin. Ukraine must be demilitarized. It must never be in NATO. It must never be in a position to defend itself from us. That's what the Russians are really saying. And that's what the peace plan from Trump amounted to. Now, in terms of the U.S. getting more reasonable, not only are they supporting Ukraine's right to have its own army, they are also no longer trying to extort from Ukraine money for the weapons they were given under Biden. That's been a big problem. That's been real bullshit from the Trump administration, trying to saddle Ukraine with debt that the last administration gifted. So it appears, according to the Ukrainian prime minister, America has backed off that position of trying to extort that $100 billion out of Ukraine. That's good news, I think. The entire Russian peace plan is a non-starter. It is basically just the capitulation of Ukraine. Mel says, if Ukraine hits the May Day parade and takes out the Russian leadership, what do you think would happen? Russia would collapse. Russia would collapse. The army would collapse. When Putin is gone, I don't think that anything's going to happen other than the competing power brokers inside of the Russian Federation are going to go after each other's throats. We're going to see internecine warfare. You're going to see the Chechens and the Dagestanis going at each other, etc. So I think that the end of Putin is the end of the Russian Federation as we know it. It's splitting at the seams as we speak. There are at least 6 armed ethnic non-Russian insurrectionist movements inside of the Russian Federation. Nobody wants to be under the Russian boot. Look at what's happening in Kazakhstan this week. Look at what's happening in Kazakhstan this week. The Russians don't have the equipment, right? They love their military parades, boy. They're going to take out the missiles, take out the tanks, parade them down the street, right, with all the troops in their dress red and greens. They can't do any of that. All the troops are at the front. All the tanks are gone. The Russians are rapidly approaching the loss of 11,000 tanks. That's as many tanks as the Soviet Union lost in World War II. They've lost in 3 years in Ukraine. So they don't have the hardware to do their parade. So you know what they're doing? They're borrowing the shit from the Kazakhs, because the Kazakhs bought all their tanks from Russia, right? So the Kazakhs are lending them the equipment for the parade at the same time that they are banning the parade inside Kazakhstan. Cities all across Kazakhstan have banned the pro-Russian Victory Day parades. And this news is just coming out. Now, why would the Kazakhs, I love the Kazakhs. The Kazakhs have been trolling Putin. I can't keep them straight. Trolling Putin so badly lately and taking steps to move away from the Kremlin. What have they done? They've stopped pumping Kazakh oil through Russia. 80% of Kazakh oil that goes for export today gets pumped to Azerbaijan, not through Russia. And in fact, the other 20% that had been still going through the Russian pipelines, the Ukrainians hit the Caspian Conglomerate pipeline, which is the pipeline through which Kazakh oil flows. It seems unlikely that that has been fixed yet, which means no Kazakh oil is flowing through Russia. The Russians aren't making any money on it. That's good for everybody as far as I'm concerned. Further, my favorite thing that the Kazakhs have done, aside from taking mandatory Russian language classes out of the classroom, it's no longer required to learn Russian in Kazakhstan. When hosting the meeting of former Soviet states, the president of Kazakhstan gave his speech in Kazakh. The Russian delegation was so flabbergasted, I'll never forget it. All the Russians scrambling for their headsets so that they could understand what the guy was saying. It was a beautiful moment in history. It was a beautiful thing to watch. So let's not forget that Kazakhstan is a domino to watch. Former Soviet bloc country under the aegis of the Kremlin for so long, now feeling its strength, feeling the Kremlin's, oh, you need to borrow our tanks? What? They can feel the weakness. Everybody in Central Asia saw what happened at Nagorno-Karabakh. The Russians were absolutely impotent to do anything about it, and everybody knows it. Everybody knows it. So I think the Kazakh story is a big story today, too. In terms of the U.S. position softening toward Ukraine, what else have we seen? Support for them having a military. What was the other thing? I just said it. Backing out of the minerals deal, or not backing out of the minerals deal, but not extorting what was already given. Additionally, after the meeting with Zelensky at the Vatican, Trump has expressed doubt whether Putin wants to end the war. He criticized Putin for attacks on civilian areas of Ukraine and said maybe he doesn't want to stop the war. If Trump catches on to the fact that Putin is stringing him along, or if Zelensky was able to whisper in the Zelensky's like the Donald whisperer. If he could have whispered in Donald's ear, hey, Flip, on a Saturday, Donald, you can be the man to take down Putin. If he can convince Donald that all the money Donald owes Putin, all the money, all the favors that he owes the Russians can be forgiven if they just let Ukraine take out Putin, give Ukraine what it needs to defeat the Russians, Donald could be the hero. He could be God Emperor of the world, which is the way you have to talk to this narcissistic cunt, right? If there's anybody that could convince the Donald of this, I think that it's Zelensky, though we shall see. Further, Trump expressed open opposition to North Korean support of the war in Ukraine, blaming the North Koreans for extending the war. That's good news. It's no more love letters to Kim. Stop working with Russia. He very clearly said it. That's a good move. And then finally, the United States rejected Russia's demand that Ukraine withdraw from the temporarily occupied territories and just turn everything over to the Russians. That's not going to happen. We got breaking news today that, of course, Vladimir Putin has declared a 3-day ceasefire for the May 9th Victory Day parade. You guys know, I think it's a cynical move. I think it's just to keep Ukrainian drones out of the Moscow skies for the parade. And I'll tell you, I'm usually, I express a lot of opinions here, but I think I'm always clear that they're my opinions, right? We're not dealing with facts when I express these opinions. And it would be unusual for me to say, Bobby, I think you're right. I think they should hit the May Day parade. But Bobby, I think you're right. I think they should. I think if a swarm of Ukrainian drones came into Moscow on May 9th, that alone, fires, explosions, smoke in the air, the day of the parade, hit it hard, that right there could be the end of Putin. That might be the last straw for the political power brokers, the gangsters inside of the Russian Federation. It could be. It could be. Now, I don't know that the Ukrainians are going to do it. I trust the Ukrainians to do what's in their best interest. Yeah, but some of us can spell PSYOP, Scotty. Now, what else is going on today? Other news from the Russian Federation. Other news from the Russian Federation. Let's see here. Oh, production of Bogdanas. That's the Russian heavy artillery, or I'm sorry, the Ukrainian heavy artillery that they produce. The 155 millimeter NATO standard shells. The howitzer is built on top of a truck, so it's mobile. The Bogdana. Ukraine was producing 18 to 20 a month. They have doubled that to 36. Over 400 of these are coming off brand new from the assembly line every year now. And to do that in wartime, I think is just astonishing. We got the feel-good story of the year today. The feel-good story of the year. Ukrainian drone operators spotted 3 Ukrainian soldiers being taken prisoner. They immediately sent FPV drones armed with grenades to drop grenades on the Russian captors, free the Ukrainians, and then lead them to safety. Extraordinary. I mean, somebody get Steven Spielberg on the phone. Get me Tom Hanks. I want him to play the commander of the drone squad. It's an amazing story. Last week, we talked about some hits by the Atesh partisan group. Now, anybody that follows this channel knows that I have unbelievable respect for the Atesh guys. These guys operate behind enemy lines in the temporarily occupied territories and inside Russia. Last week, we saw they burned a switching cabinet for a railway station in Melitopol. They burned a tank in Donetsk. Today, we have video of another railway cabinet burning in Luhansk. Now, these railway cabinets, it might not sound sexy, but they stop the trains from running. They stop the food, the ammunition, the fuel from getting to the frontline positions. Everything gets delayed when you burn those switching cabinets. And they take time to repair. That's good news for the Ukrainians. And the Atesh partisans that do it, God bless them. They are behind enemy lines, committing sabotage, putting their lives at risk every day. Huge, huge, and not to be underestimated. The effects of it not to be underestimated. You cannot fight a war without food and ammunition. If you can't get that shit to the front, your guys are going to be in a world of hurt. And that's what we're seeing. The Kremniy microchip plant has been hit for the 5th time and is burning now. That's in Bryansk, though, not Kursk. So it's next door to Kursk. It's right across the border from Ukraine. 94% of what they manufacture at that plant is sold to the Russian army. 94% of it. It's a legitimate military target. They make the chipsets that go into Iskanders, that go into Caliber cruise missiles, that go into the radar arrays, etc. I guess that's it for me. That's it for me. Top line news today, guys. Oh, there was a lieutenant general of the Russian Federation became the 26th general unalived in this conflict when a car blew up in Moscow and took him out of action. So, guys, those are the highlights from the news today. We can go to open question and answer. I know there were a lot of questions in the queue that kind of scrolled by. I didn't have a chance to read them. So for anybody that's got a question, chat it in and we'll answer those as best I can. Big thanks to Little Red, who is the sponsor of tonight's live. Big thanks to Chris Carter, who will be sponsoring the rest of the week. Anybody that wants to help me out, the PayPal is in the description. Lives are available for sponsorship next week. If you don't have $50 for a live sponsorship, send what you can and it'll be a shared sponsorship. Chris Carter's a good guy. He doesn't mind sharing the spotlight. So please, anybody that can help me out, help me out. Big thanks to Nightshade, who has the Peter's Peeps group on the Book of Faces. Big thanks to Lars, who has the Discord server, and to Jay and Travis, our moderators. Paul, I'm doing just fine. How you doing, pal? Dave was quoting Zelensky. I am in Ukraine, Simon. My favorite Zelensky quote, the one that gives me solace every day, is in a big war, there are no small actions. Because I'm a person who wants to help Ukraine. There's very little I can do. I make videos, I talk to you guys, and around town here, I do some small things, very small things. So I console myself every day with Zelensky's words that in a big war, there are no small actions. I saw the John Kennedy interview, but John Kennedy is such a piece of shit, I can't take any of it seriously, Nightshade. You know, he was talking about Putin needs to know we turn him into fish food. And I don't just mean Russia, I mean him. You know, the guy went to fucking Oxford. He doesn't really talk like that. It's a put on. He's a joke. I hate him so much. Flip, no. There's an investigation into the loss of the F-16 underway. No conclusions have been published. Could the partisan groups grab any of the Russian leadership? Awful risky, very well protected. The I partisan group is famous for poisoning Russian leadership when they can. 22 officers of the Black Sea Fleet. Yeah. Don't mess with those girls. Yeah, no, it was Putin that started this war. Like, to say that Putin didn't start this war is just a denial of all reality. Thank you, Dust Bunny, for being right on top of that. Good job. Well, no, Scotty, there were 2 planes lost in the last 2 weeks. One was an F-16 that was shot down by the Russians. And then one was the Su-27 today that we don't know what it was shot down. We don't know how we don't know why it came down. We don't know if it was a technical malfunction, friendly fire, combat fire. We do not know why the Su-27 came down today. I can't really answer the question, William, about where does Moscow get their electric power from. I know that there are at least 6 thermal power plants around Moscow. Beyond that, I don't know. But it doesn't matter because Ukraine is not going to target civilian power infrastructure. That's a war crime. Ukraine doesn't do war crimes. I think the Kursk nuclear power plant, because there is a nuclear power plant in Kursk, supplies a lot of Moscow's energy, but don't quote me on that. I'd have to look that up. Did you hear about another sun sank? Thomas, I think you're saying, did I hear about another submarine being sunk? The Rostov-on-Don is a Kilo-class submarine that was part of the Black Sea Fleet that was sunk. It was first hit probably 18 months ago. It was sunk about 6 months ago. No, there are 4 operating nuclear power plants in Ukraine. Zaporizhzhia is currently offline, so there are 5 in total. Chernobyl is still up and running, guys. I mean, I know that comes as quite a shock to everybody, but Chernobyl is actually still online, still producing power. Part of it, anyway. How you doing, Master? I am ex-Special Forces soldier from Scotland, and the Ukraine treated the TMRU. I don't know what that means. Go Norway. Trump stupid. Damn right. Oh, we are not going to be as lucky tonight as we were last night. The air raid alarms are sounding here in Kyiv, even as we speak. I don't know if you can hear them. I've got the door closed. It's a little bit chilly out tonight. Can you hear it, Dark Bamboos? Yeah. So that's a real thing. Always. Here, I'll open. Well, you know what? It's a little bit warm in here now. I was making a turkey breast. I keep expecting some Miracle Whip to arrive, but it doesn't. Hear him? You go where? I don't go anywhere. I'm staying right here. Yeah, there's no ceasefire. There is no... I mean, when the ceasefire was in effect, the Ukrainians accused the Russians of having broken it 2,000 times. I mean, and that was only in 30 days. It's ridiculous. What is that, like 180 violations a day, something like that? 2,900. You're right. It was 2,900, the final count. Yeah, there's no ceasefire. And again, I believe that the May 9th ceasefire is solely to try to protect Putin's ass at the parade. Solely. Nothing else. No other reason. Well, wait. There could be another reason. It's 3 days for the Russians to regroup, fortify positions, replenish men, move soldiers around safely, move arms and armaments to the front, get ready for their summer offensive, which so far has been a complete dud. Every single armored column assault has been repelled by the Ukrainians. Every single one. The largest such, consisting of 50 armored vehicles and tanks, 150 motorcycles, a couple dozen of those Chinese golf carts, a few other vehicles. Almost everybody in that died, 70% casualties. Of the 150 motorcycles, I believe they were all destroyed. How many horses and carts? Trump has united the world against the U.S. It's appalling. World leaders are learning to impact Trump's optics. Macron not shaking his hand was great. That was a nice little bitch slap, wasn't it? Pardon me. My favorite thing about Trump at the funeral was him in that god-awful blue suit. Now look, I don't generally criticize what men wear. You're going to a funeral, you're wearing a suit. I don't usually give a fuck what color it is. But if you're going to invite a man like Volodymyr Zelensky into your office, then have a bunch of cunts ambush him about what he's wearing, and you don't understand and pay respect to what he's wearing, then goddamn it, if you wear a blue suit, you are a shining sapphire in a sea of black mourners. I have no problem laughing at you. None at all. But the tan suit, wow, that's an old reference. That's 10 years old, that scandal. Steve-O, to the best of my knowledge, the last I saw, eggs in Russia are still up 73% from last year. Something like that. But they're up about the same in the United States. A lot of that has to do with the bird flu epidemic. right? That's the supply and demand issue. Donald Trump is incapable of respect. Bip, I agree. And then he fell asleep. The guy's 78 years old. I don't get these goddamn Republicans. Joe Biden is an old man. He's so old. We can't have him. And then you elect somebody who's 3 years younger than him, but who behaves like a 2-year-old. Chewing gum and on his phone at the funeral. Trump has a phone? Who gave him a phone? He's going to be on Signal texting battle plans to the failing New York Times. I sent them the plans on Signal. Ugh. Bernard, that seems very unlikely. Bernard asked the question, do you think Trump will try to get closer to Zelensky for the popularity? Trump very clearly, I think, seems to hate Zelensky, blaming him for his first impeachment. J.C. Penney. God, I don't like shopping, period. I don't like to go shopping. But when I do go shopping, I like to go someplace that has shit that fits me, that's my style, that I can pick out a couple of the same thing in different colors and get the fuck out of the store. JCPenney is great for that. The Stafford Oxfords, button-down Oxfords, one of my favorite shirts of all time. Decent suits for off the rack, pret-a-porter. You can't go wrong. Hey, Russell Kennedy. He was playing Candy Crush on his phone. Trump has dementia. He's got something. William has plenty of eggs for sale. $3 a dozen. William, why do I think, are you in England? Are you in... Where are you? Hey, Hardley. There's a little red sunflower. Again, the sponsor of tonight's live. Everybody thank her, please. Trump is a classic sociopath. Could be syphilis. That's a good point. Late stage syphilis is a kind of dementia, loss of cognizance, insanity. Extremely rare these days, but not impossible. Certainly not for him. Okay, guys, we got 6 minutes. Questions, comments, points of observation. Nightshade paid £2.15 for 15 eggs today. Nice. Oh, God, the last thing we need, Julian, is more stories on Donald Trump. Can you believe that the United States elected him again? My God. It is so frustrating. Oh, Flip, the ruble is one of the best performing currencies in the world right now. It's regained 22% of its value off its lows. All because Donald Trump is tanking the US dollar. Make no mistake. Donald Trump is purposely devaluing the dollar, and we are seeing all of the foreign currencies rise against the dollar. You're still in denial of the election. You and me both, pal. You and me both, Robster. Are the Russians getting hit in Crimea? Yes. I'm the top geezer. That's awesome. I always wanted to be the top of something. I was just hoping it wouldn't be geezer. Stars and stripes should be changed to the facepalm. Marco Rubio is trying to justify Trump wanting to annex Canada. It's sheer greed. Trump wants Canadian oil. Trump wants Arctic waterways. Trump wants as much as he can get. Him and his kind, him and the Putins of the world will eat the world if we let them. And that's what they're trying to do. King Charles isn't going to arrest anybody. Free Walkin' Hens. That's a great band name. Free Walkin' Hens. Zelensky is not conceding Crimea. Nobody is conceding Ukrainian territory to Russia. Trump doubled down on that this week, saying Crimea will be Russia. Ugh. Julian says, sometimes I question how strong a hold Russia has on Crimea with this push for recognition so fast. Exactly. That's the question to ask. Right now, all of the families of the military personnel have been evacuated from Crimea. All leave has been canceled. Crimea is on high alert. Something like 1 million Russian colonists who came in since 2014 have left Crimea. All because life there is increasingly untenable. You can't do it. They can't do it. The Ukrainians keep blowing shit up. The fleet at Sevastopol, the Black Sea Fleet, has fled to Novorossiysk, which Nightshade says now is on fire tonight. A third of the Black Sea Fleet is at the bottom of the Black Sea. But that's a third of all boats. It's half the tonnage, right? Navies are measured in tonnage. How big are your boats? Ukraine has put half the tonnage of the Black Sea Fleet at the bottom of the bay, including one Kilo-class submarine, the Rostov-on-Don. Yeah, I don't know what's going on in Pakistan and India, but it looks like they're getting ready to go at it, huh? And that's a meaningless statement. Changes their yuan to gold? That doesn't mean anything. What are you talking about? I mean, if you're talking about putting their currency on the gold standard, that's the surest way to tank their entire economy they could ever hope for. So, seems unlikely. That is not a thing. That's not a thing. That's some classical economist's 19th century understanding of how money works. That is not the world we live in today. Russia sent aid to Iran in the form of what? What do they have left that they could send to Iran? Oh, maybe some tchotchkes. Hey, Arn. How you doing, pal? Planes. I wonder what kind of planes. Do you know? There's always hope, Midland Music. I just don't know what the path is. They're having fires in Iran, are they? That's funny because the Russians ran out of fire foam down in Krasnodar recently, right? The Ukrainians hit an ammo depot down there by the airport, and the fire raged for 7 days because there was no fire retardant foam. Ah, well. I didn't know that there were wildfires in Iran. I didn't know that there was enough vegetation to have wildfires in Iran. That's interesting. I've never been. I would like to see the country. I hear it's beautiful. Oh, rocket fuel blew up in a port. Oh, I didn't see that story at all. Missed that. Guys, I'm really very focused on Ukraine. If it doesn't affect Ukraine, it's unlikely in my feed. I think it mostly is, Julian. I think it mostly is. Okay. Guys, it's past 1 a.m. here. So I'm going to call it a night. Try to get some sleep. I wouldn't say that Romania hasn't helped Ukraine. Romania donated a Patriot system, for crying out loud. That's a lot of money. And they've done other things too. Nicola, I think that's highly unlikely to happen. That Russia would keep the tanks from the Victory Day parade that they're borrowing from Kazakhstan. It's possible. Okay. How to help? Well, the place to go is really united24.gov.com. united24.gov.ua. That's the central website for support in Ukraine. Now, if you want to help keep me on the air, get yourself a Patreon account, kick me $5 a month. Or the PayPal's in the description, sponsor a live. Watch Russia repo the tanks they borrowed. They might fit. Who knows? Well, good night. Hey, James Boudreau. How you doing, pal? I was just saying good night to everybody. Good night, David. I hope you voted. Good night, Clay. Night, Pingu. So, James, I'm going to download this live. I'm going to post it to Facebook if you'd like to catch up on the news of the day. It was a busy day. It was a busy weekend, boy. No, Mel, things keep coming up. I keep meaning to look it up, and I keep forgetting. They're certainly not making an appearance in the news feeds. So what effect they're having on the war, I don't know. Night, Nicola. Peter's Peeps on the group, on the Book of Faces. Nightshade maybe has a link for you there. Tough Love Coach. But it's Peter's, and I think it's spelled Peter on Facebook. There it is. Peter's Peeps Public on Facebook, or Peter's Peeps if you prefer a private group. And all of the lives get posted there every day, as does the news we are waking up to, which is published 12 hours earlier on the Patreon every morning. All right, so, ladies and gentlemen, on a personal note, I would mention June 6th coming up here is the 2-year anniversary of this channel. Which I can't even believe. This last year has just flown. And so as we approach this 2-year anniversary, I want to thank so many of you who have contributed so much over these 2 years and made all the work, what little there is, the little bit of work that I do here in Ukraine possible, for which I'm deeply grateful. So thank you all. And I will see everybody in tomorrow's live. Take care.